Beat drop, roll. Yeah, step in the ring. No fear, no limits.
Welcome to episode 1 of Noob Wrestling After Hours. I'm your host, Nick. Joining me tonight to discuss the topics is Eldon and Petey. Welcome, guys. Tell me a little about yourself. Start with Eldon.
Hi, I'm Eldon. I collect Transformers comic books, so I deal with a little bit about the topic we're going to be talking about tonight.
Cool. Petey?
Hey, I'm Petey. I'm an admin of The Era on Facebook. I am a buyer and reseller of wrestling figures and memorabilia for probably 10-ish years or so.
You're the reason why all the kids are upset.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, we're going to get right into it. So, that leads to a good point. One, what is scalping versus reselling? Petey, you tell me, would you consider yourself more of a scalper or a reseller?
Not a scalper. So I'm into vintage stuff. I feel like I'm AI before AI existed for like finding wrestling figures, wrestling memorabilia. I've been an admin in these groups for a long time. Kind of started when I had a mortgage, and it was the same time when the Mattel retros came out. So I started collecting. Okay. I sold my figures when I was in high school because they weren't cool anymore, but I always followed them. And once those retros came out, I became a collector. Mm-hmm. And I did the whole real quick, and for not super expensive. And then I had a mortgage, and then I had bills, and then my cousins were getting married, and just now I needed money, and I had this full collection. I'm like, where the F am I going to get this money from? And so I'm like, I got to sell these shits right now. And because that was it. That's all I had. It was my first condo I ever had, my first crib. I didn't know what a mortgage was. And so I sold them all pretty quick. Didn't look at my PayPal. And then when I did, I was like, whoa, maybe I should look into doing this more. And but it's all vintage stuff, and I've been here ever since, and I love it. I think I'm pretty well respected in doing it. I think about 10 years at this point. I would not consider myself a scalper by any means. But what is a scalper? What is a scalper?
I mean, is there a difference? Is there a difference between, does just does intent matter, or is it really just outcome? You know what I mean? Eldon, give me an example from your perspective. You seem to be more of a buyer, less of a flipper / scalper.
Yeah, no, 100%. Scalping, at least in my opinion, is very much so people who take advantage of the fear of missing out, the FOMO, where you've got this item, it's popular, it's very in demand. So these people, these scalpers will go out, they'll get it first, they'll try and turn a huge profit on eBay because they realize that it's such a limited quantity, or there's such scarcity attributed to it, and they feel that they can inflate the value so much to create a hefty profit for something that's not necessarily that value to begin with. So, for example, as I said, I collect Transformers. It's commonly seen that a Transformer will come out. People in an area might get it earlier. You'll have scalpers that'll go out, and you'll see it listed on eBay for 5 times its value. Then you get the average person who goes into 5 or 6 different Walmarts, can't find it. They go on eBay and they go, well, I got to have it for my collection. And, so they pay the outrageous price just to have the complete collection.
Yeah.
And it's very sad because, people who are scalping are not necessarily even fans of the product. It's all just speculative buying, kind of like stocks. You buy it low, you sell high. That's really what the name of the game is there.
Now, does that make a difference, you think, to you guys, being a fan of it versus selling it? Because I do sports cards too, baseball, and there was a point where I was buying the basketball and the football just to sell it. I felt, to be honest with you, I felt a little dirty. Guys. I sat there as I bought all of them off the shelf. But, at that point, this was pre-COVID, so they had them on the shelves, and I was making good money on it. But it feels a little less dirty when you buy a couple of them, but it's because you want to open one and then keep one sealed. I mean, does that resonate with you guys, or?
In my personal opinion, buying, especially sports cards, they're sealed. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. You're buying the idea of, hey, I might get this card. I might get this better card. If you do, then obviously the value automatically inflates itself just because, it is a rarer card. But, I know from personal experience, we've dealt with a person who I wouldn't necessarily call a scalper, but did not necessarily put a good value on a certain card that me and you had been looking at, and was asking a ridiculous amount out of it. There are certain limits to what things are worth, but then you get people who go, oh, I've got this limited edition 1-of-1. Let me ask $10,000 of it. It's a little unrealistic.
Yeah,
You always get the it's worth what someone will pay for it. You get it's worth what someone will pay for it, and it's true. It's true. But cards is like cards and figures, even though they're like similar, I feel like they're different.
No, they're definitely different. I mean, with the cards, again, you're basically buying a scratch-off lottery ticket versus, hey, I'm getting the figure I'm paying for right here. Yeah, I mean, I've done it. I've sat there, went to an NXT show, got to meet Joe Hendry with the daughter, and what was the number one thing we had to go do? We had to go buy a figure. And of course, he doesn't have a WWE release. So I had to overpay for an older, third brand figure. But, hey, guess what? I'm the sucker that paid for it. I paid $50 for it. Yeah, so, again, if you got it.
That's where it comes from, right?
Yep. So going on to the next, Eldon, do you have something?
Yeah, well, let me pose you the question. You paid $50 for that, but I'm sure there's people out there that put $100 value on that. Where I guess it's up to the individual person to determine where the limit is for you to buy. Because you paid $50 for that, it's an outrageous price. You wouldn't pay $100 for that.
Mind you, I bought it too. His second to last NXT show before he got called up officially to main roster. So that probably has already gone up to some extent in value.
Yeah, and there's you raise a good point. There are outside factors that can obviously change the price. But again, going back, if you had bought that figure and there's two other ones that are listed at $100, do you think it would have been as valuable? Do you think you would have paid that $100 then, as opposed to having it paid now that he's been called up to the main roster?
Back then, no, I probably would not have bought it for $100.
Yeah, and ultimately that's what I'm getting at is that these people who buy these figures, you can buy them, you can flip them as circumstances allow, but to try and get the maximum amount of the price off the rip is uncool in my opinion.
No, 100%.
Is important too, like in this, because we don't know how many they're gonna like crank out. Like, I don't know who's making them. I don't know what the plans are for releasing them. They might people were financing figures during COVID. People were like Klarna and stuff. People were like financing wrestling figures. You don't know how many they're gonna actually create. If they all sell out, shit, we'll just throw out some more. They could do whatever I don't know what the language rules are here, but they could do what they want.
Yeah.
And know what the rules are. You don't know what the how they're spreading these out, and they could make 1 million more if they're selling.
And that dilutes the product, though. I mean, same thing with a lot of the sports cards. You got Topps. Topps has the deal now with WWE to do the Topps Chrome WWE cards, and guess what? You buy a box, you're hoping to get something that's not common, and you get people online going, "Oh, I got this common rookie card. It's going to be worth something." Not really, because they made literally 1 billion of them. So
and
unless you get it,
they could keep making them.
Correct. Now that leads us into the next topic of online drops and bots. What do you guys think morally of those automatic bots that people set up, and as soon as something goes on sale, they wipe out all of them? I think that should be illegal, personally.
I don't know if you'll ever make it illegal.
I'm not saying I could make it illegal, but I think it should be illegal or
immoral.
Considered. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very immoral. I mean, and collecting doesn't necessarily just start and end with cards and figures. One of my things that I collect, obviously, is Mountain Dew bottles, but there's limited edition drops of almost anything nowadays. I remember there was limited edition Arby's whiskey that had come out. And I stayed up till midnight waiting for it. And at midnight, I went to log in, and it was sold out. It had been scraped by bots, and sure enough, sold for $60. And sure enough, it was on eBay, probably within the hour, up to $500 because of these people that had automatically scraped it with bots. It genuinely frustrates me because it takes the fun out of collecting sometimes.
No, it does, absolutely.
We could all do the thing. We could all get those bots. I don't know anything about that stuff, but I know that if I wanted to, I could get those bots. I could pay for those bots. I could get them. I know that I could do the same thing if I can't right off the bat, because I don't know anything about them. So for whoever's listening to this in the future, and is like running these bots, and you hear me saying that I could do the same thing as you, trust me that I can. I would learn it. But like, is that like immoral? Yes. I miss like buying a ticket from like, from the gate at at the arena, or it's just immoral. Yeah. I think it's shitty.
No, I mean I agree, and plus, honestly, where I think the big immorality of it is now you got a monopoly on the entire thing. You wipe them out, you now dictate the price, and everyone else is at, and don't get me wrong, that's capitalism, and I'm all about it as far as, supply and demand. But, when you go in and you take all of them right off the rip, especially like online, here's the thing, I think it's different if you're waiting in line and the vendor comes in, you're right there, they stock the shelves, you're acting like a normal human being, not acting like some of these Pokemon guys that are absolutely just like beating the crap out of each other over Pokemon. But if you're doing it the right way and you're putting the effort and you're there in the store waiting, I don't have a problem with you buying them. But if you're just sitting at home, working your day job and click a button, all of a sudden you have a monopoly on it. I just kind of feel like that's a little on the sus side.
Well, and even talking about, people that go to the grocery stores and whatnot to pick up like Pokemon cards, a lot of places now are combating that by putting a, 1 pack per limit on the customer. And, does that help? Only so much. I could get 5 of my friends and say, okay, let's go in one after the other. They're not going to know that, we're together, because to them, we seem like 5 individual people. So there's always ways to rig the system. There's no... Oh,
I could walk in and out of the store and they probably wouldn't recognize,
Probably.
Go on trick or treat, a different mask with you and get the big candy bar from like the Good House. There's so many ways to manipulate it. Sorry to cut you off.
No, 100%. But you raise a good point. There's no perfect system in which everybody gets an equal share, because there's always going to be somebody out there that goes, I can make a nice pretty penny off of this, and everybody else doesn't matter to me. What matters at the end of the day is that I get a profit.
Yeah, I mean, and then that leads into, the next segment, impact on kids and casual fans. Parents can't find the figures and the cards that their kids want, they've been asking for. Prices get inflated, so some of the only places you can get it is going to be, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, where, the prices are going to be out the roof. And then, then is it wrong if kids can't get these because of resellers? Personally, I don't think so. That's just the name of the game. I mean, it's sure, they're made for kids, but there's collectors, and collectors are going to want to collect. And a lot of those kids, and a lot of these kids that do want them, they end up becoming collectors anyways. So it's not like I think you're turning off any kids to the hobby or the figures because they can't get them, or their parents need to go on eBay to get them. What are your guys' thoughts, Petey?
I've never really thought about it like from a kid perspective, because like I hope, I'm going to knock on wood here, I don't think I'm ever having kids. I've never thought about it, honestly. So I don't have much of it. Who are the buyers of these? Because I would think like I never see stats, but like who are the people that want these figures at this point? Because I've never really like looked at it from the kid. Like people buy vintage figures. I have a following, and people will come to me, hey, you got any beater LJNs or Hasbros, because my kid wants to chew on them and like he's going to become a collector. Hell yeah, I got them. Are the kids the collectors, or is it the adults that are like, who's collecting them? You know?
Yeah.
He raises a very good point. For Transformers and I know Star Wars figures, they've had a huge uptick in adult collectors. I grew up collecting Transformers, and now that people in my generation are old enough to have money and stable jobs that are able to go out and buy these figures. They've started gearing. You've got the Transformers Studio Series, you've got the Star Wars Black lines, or the Black Series. You have these adult-oriented figures to where I would say the collecting hobby is more so for adults now than it is for kids. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not, kid figures out there. Of course, there's always going to be, kiddie WWE figures, kiddie Star Wars, kiddie Transformers, but they're not going to. They're sort of like an afterthought because the people with the real spending money are not the kids; it's the parents. It's the parents and the older college kids, the older generation that's able to go out and spend $40 on a figure that completes their collection, as opposed to spending $10 or $5 on a toy for their kids that who knows they're going to have it in a year or two. Now, Nick, you raise a good point. That doesn't mean that they can't be raised into the next generation of collectors. Seeing, I like Daddy's figures. My son loves my Transformers. The more he's around them and interacts with them, he'll grow up to appreciate them more.
No,
Just to say
naturally.
he doesn't buy them.
I mean, whatever Daddy does is, the coolest thing ever. I mean, Anastasia, I mean, she's all about it. I got her a little, plastic title belt to start out with, and as soon as Daddy got one of the, the nice metal ones and stuff like that, the replicas, that just wasn't good enough. So now we're buying her collector edition stuff because that's what she likes, and if Daddy's got it, I don't mind spending money and encouraging her to join the hobby and participate in the hobby. I mean, half my channel is us going to Walmart looking for cards and WWE figures. We just had one today that should be up in a day or so to check that out. But she's all about it.
I hope you hit it. I hope you got what you were looking for.
Yeah, no, we did all right. We're looking for Obafemi, which that's going to be really tough right now. But we did get something pretty cool that she was eyeing, so that's cool to see.
Oh, yeah.
And then yeah, go ahead, Eldon.
One thing you kind of touched upon for a brief second, you're looking for an Obafemi. I think part of the reason why scalping culture is also such a huge thing right now is just because distribution in a lot of places is terrible. Figures don't come until way later after they're released, if at all. Then that forces people to go online, and if the official sources are sold out, you are pushed to a resale market, which isn't always in the favor of the buyer.
No, I mean, I'm sure, Petey, you've seen a lot of it too, right? You get those guys that post on Facebook, hey, look at my Walmart. It's absolutely stocked, out the wazoo. But every single Walmart I go to, I'm seeing the same Stone Cold Steve Austin figure. It's like, bro, my kid's part of the generation where, she knows who he is, but he's not the cool guy. She's looking for Jey Uso, LA Knight, and all those guys. And, they're hard to find.
Here's another thing is Eldon, where are you from? I'm not sure where you're located. Local,
Schenectady.
Okay.
Upstate New York.
Some people don't have Walmart for 700 miles. There's the Midwest of Walmart and the Target. If they drive there and it's not there, they can't go to Walmart and Target like we can. They gotta drive to another state to go to Walmart. I can go to 4 different Walmarts in 10 minutes pretty much. And so those are people that I feel like are gonna buy from the people that are scalping on eBay and shit, because that $100 to them, it's like shit. If I drive the 7 hours Walmart in Montana and shit and it's not there, then that was a big waste of time and money and gas and so they'll just say F it and buy it from eBay. Mm-hmm. So there are people that that $100, it's worth it for them to snatch it up. You can't really see who's buying it on eBay. You can see that it's sold for $100, but I would hope that it's I don't know. This is an interesting topic, but there are people that can't get to Walmart and Target. They don't have them nearby. I have the 4 next to me. So it's like it's interesting.
No, I mean for sure. I mean Eldon and I both live in proximity to each other, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 WalMarts within 25 minutes of each other. So, but
Yeah.
Or it's like we can take an out of our time to go search for. I don't really buy the new stuff, but I know that like I dread going into Walmart and Target. Like I don't buy the new stuff. I don't go to those stores. I'd rather like pay extra than go into one of them. But if I wanted to like hunt for these things, there's like 6. I wouldn't even really be like the gas money thing. Like people that say like it's my time and my gas money. You wouldn't even be paying me for my time and my gas money because they're like it's literally Walmart, Home Goods, and then another Walmart. They're like all right here, but
yeah. No, I mean I personally I'm one of those guys that actually enjoys the hunt. I enjoy sitting there, hitting that corner, seeing them all filled, and getting that little giddy feeling like yes, I won the lottery.
Hell yeah, I understand that 100%.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the price gouging versus market value? 2 to 5 times resale prices. Would you guys think that's the market deciding the price, or is it the resellers manipulating?
I'm going to go on the again. It really all depends. In the case of Joe Hendry, there you got the figure for a lower price than you probably would have the week after you got called up to the main roster. It really just depends on just the circumstances that are going on around that particular item or character or what have you. In the world of comic book collecting, I know that there's a lot of people that'll own issues that'll quadruple in value when the character shows up in a mainline Marvel movie. I personally saw an experience where there was about a 1 week difference. A comic book that I saw started off at $5. I came back the next week to collect something else, and I saw it jumped up to $80 because they announced that particular character was going to be in an upcoming movie. So it really depends, but it's, I don't know if there's necessarily a fine line to where it needs to be, right out the gate. But, people who are, again, we kind of touched on it earlier, people who are trying to flip it for 5 times the value, the day it releases, just because they think that they're going to get somebody who's worried about missing out on the character. I don't think that's correct, and I think that is manipulating it at that point.
If Mattel releases it for $20 and then someone buys it and they decide it's worth $100 or they sell it for $100, like I think Mattel understood the value of it to value it at $20 so they can make the profit on it that people will buy it at this price point. And then for someone to go to Walmart and then go and list it for $100 on eBay within 10 minutes, now it's worth $100. Like, who are you to decide that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, that then leads into, again, risk versus reward. Not everything sells. You get some of these scalpers, maybe not so much with the vintage stuff because vintage is usually you pretty much know where the value is on vintage stuff. And usually if it's anything like vintage sports cards, that the price is kind of always going to be here. And then every so often it will start creeping up. But, when you got the boxes of cards and stuff that's newly released, sure, you could buy all the boxes on the shelf. But if it's, if 2 years later no one makes it in the major leagues or anything, then, the whole box is really worth nothing because no one out of it became anything.
I don't want to get stuck with that product. That's why I don't really touch upon that. If I by disaster chance happen to be in Target and one of my like regular buyers says, hey, can you if you're ever in Target by any chance, can you look for this for me? Yeah, I'll take a stroll down the aisle and look for it. If there's 5 of them there, I'm gonna buy one because I don't want to get stuck with that product either. And now I'm competing with I'll undercut them. I'm not gonna charge $100, but I don't touch them because I don't want to get stuck with the product. Because Mattel can release this shit next week and there could be 100 on the shelves. It could be like I'm in the clearance aisle next week, and now I'm stuck with all these. So I don't. There's risk and reward in it too, and that's like me trying to give some type of credit to the scalpers even though I think they're scumbags, is like now they're stuck with it.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden next week there's 50 of them on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the one credit I'll give scalpers is that in order to be a scalper, you have to be very in tune with the thing that you're trying to scalp. You need to know, not necessarily be a fan, but you need to know the market well enough to know what to buy in the first place. You know, so typically if you're going to scalp something, chances are you probably will end up turning it around. Just because you're scalping, typically you're not scalping the low level figures. You know, you're not scalping your Transformers, Bumblebees, your John Cena's, the stuff that you can find sitting on the shelves at any Walmart or Target are not typically the stuff that scalpers are going to go for. They're going to go for the more popular ones. Okay, who was trending in WWE this week? Okay, let me go see what that figure's worth. Oh, it's worth $10. All right, let me buy all of them right now and let me put them up to $50. There's a certain amount of following the news that you have to have as a scalper in order to be effective at it. And that's the one credit I'll give them, is that people who are scalping it, I feel, have less of a risk of being held on to stock unless something drastic happens. I feel like there's a better chance of them turning the product, no matter how immoral it is. I think there's a better chance of them turning it just because they're so in tune to what's going on.
I feel like there's so much hype behind, like, I really don't follow the new stuff enough, but I feel like there's so much hype, and like the influencers are putting so much hype behind every new release. Like everything that comes out, people are afraid to miss. Like the new like LJN like Mattel figures. Everything. There's so much like influence on enabling people to be scalpers that it's like they can literally just go buy, like, not anything, but they can go just buy a lot of the things that are on the shelves and be scalpers because people are afraid that they're not going to get it. They're so afraid they're not going to get it. I mean, like the fact that people were financing like the Mattel Creations things, like they were like backing, like crowdfunding or whatever it is, like yeah, that like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that didn't happen. Like that never existed. And then they're like, you're gonna get an extra figure if we get this many buyers. Dude, if the product is good, it will sell. Like your crowd, it's a crazy world. It's a crazy world.
No, that's pretty nuts.
Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just saying that's bonkers. I mean, same thing with the sports cards. I saw people going into debt, whipping out their credit card just to buy the whole shelf to then go flip it. I'm like, dude, your interest rate, you better hope you make enough off of it, or else you're going to be in the hole. You
better sell that shit. Yeah, I'm rooting for them, just so they're not in debt for the rest of it. It's crazy. It's bonkers, and you're right.
It's interesting. You had mentioned crowdfunding figures, because you're right. That wasn't a thing until recently. I would argue maybe within the last 10 years or so. And the number one company that I see that is notorious for crowdfunding figures is Hasbro. They do it with Transformers constantly, but it's usually reserved for figures that aren't well known enough to necessarily be on the shelves, and they're more so for the diehard fans. Hey, here's this one-off character that appeared in 2 episodes of this show that has this really cool form. They'll crowdfund it just because it's, if you put it out on the shelf, your average everyday passerby is not going to know who it is and isn't going to necessarily pick it up. The product might be phenomenal, might be the most best engineered thing, but people don't realize how much a name sells. You've got a name like John Cena, even though I feel he's a little oversaturated in the figure market right now, but you got a name like John Cena sells, right? Optimus Prime sells. Tiger Lord is not going to sell.
No, but good thing though. So do you think that they make those, back to what we were talking about with the kids, they make those for the kids? Because today at Walmart, when we did our video, there was 17 John Cenas, and I went, oh, whatever. But that's as a collector. The average Timmy John that comes in that's 12 years old is going to see John Cena and go, "Oh, Mom, can I get one?" And then, he gets one. So do you think maybe that's done strategically, Eldon, to be able to appease the kids?
If it's hard to say because the way that the figure is made, especially with the additional accessories and whatnot, a 7-year-old couldn't care less that he's got interchangeable hands and heads, and you could pose them in 10 different points of articulation. Those things are put in there for people like you and me who will sit there and pose them and put them on sets and everything and take pictures of them. Because, ultimately, yeah, exactly. They put them in there for us nerds, right? Yeah. In the case of John Cena, I think it's just oversaturation just because he's such a big name that they just okay, cool. We think that we're going to sell 10 million of these things. Well, he's such a big name. Let's put out 20 million. And because you did that, you sold 12 million and the other 8 million are sitting there, right?
Parts and molds and stuff like that for this figure that they've already created, 87 times over. It's a lot of not every single part. They're always adding something new to it. But the molds are there for these parts where they could just kind of slap it in a box. And if it sits on the shelf and if it goes to clearance and sells for $5 and someone's going to go in there when it's on the clearance aisle and buy it for $5, I feel like the market research knows that they still already made their money on it. So I feel like there's a lot of research behind this stuff where they're not losing money. I think anyway. I think they're not losing money when there's 20 John Cena's sitting on that shelf. They've already made their money on them.
I mean, good example is you had that right before when he announced his retirement, you had that 3-pack of John Cena's showing the different eras and stages. It was 3 figures. It was $75. I bought one for $75. I found 2 more for $15 just last month. So that's 5 months ago. I bought both of them for $15 and gave one to my friend who's a collector. But here's the thing, even if at the end of the day, it's just a piece of plastic, you melt that down, it's a puddle of plastic. So even at $15, I think they still won. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, they made money on that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So running into the last segment here, long-term impact on the hobby. Do you think this, this type of attitude with collecting is going to drive fans away, keep fans hyped, or is the reselling going to grow and hurt the community? What do you guys think on that?
I'm going to say something very controversial here, and feel free to disagree with me. But I think the scalping culture does not hinder fans, despite the fact that I've sat here and slapped scalpers around verbally. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the people are fans. Are they going to whine and complain and make a lot of noise online if they can't get a figure? Sure. But at the end of the day, scalping culture is not necessarily something that has a fix. And what I mean by that is that it's just human nature to look out for what the maximum outcome for you personally is. And no matter what form that takes, it's just a fact of collecting. So while scalpers are out there, yes, it's immoral. Yes, it's greedy. Yes, I do not like it. The fact of the matter is that scalpers are out there, and that doesn't stop me from going out and collecting and buying the figures. Actually, in my personal opinion, it makes me want to try and beat them to it, even though I know it's a nigh impossible challenge because these guys are very dedicated. But scalping culture does not hinder collecting, in my opinion. Scalping culture does not take away, and it doesn't ruin hype or anything. It's sort of like this subculture that people are aware of, and unless you're the person in the situation where you have to have it and you have no other way, as long as you ignore it, you can still have the enjoyment of collecting.
Now, how much of that do you guys think is flex culture? Like those guys on social media that show a picture of, hey, look at the 4 bags of this I got at Walmart today. Let me know if you want one. $60 a pop.
That's almost none. Because the thing is that the flex is that you have it. The flex is not how much of it you have. The flex is that you got it first. Quantity doesn't necessarily matter because if you have that quantity, you're not flexing it, you're reselling it.
Yeah. Pete, you got anything you want to add?
I agree with you 100% that I don't think it's going to affect collectors. I wish it would. I kind of wish it would. but I don't. And at the end of the day, it is worth what people are willing to spend for it.
Mhm.
And the people that are gonna buy from the scalpers, listen, I know that I'll have like that figure that everyone's chasing right now, like the newest thing. I'll have 20 of them next year, and I'll sell them to you for way cheaper than you're gonna buy them for right now. But it's about having it right now. A lot of the people, I mean, like if you go on eBay, a lot of the things that people are buying, they bought them, and then all of a sudden they realize like, I don't need this shit, and now they're for sale on eBay. Like, if you're patient, I just advise people to like be patient when it comes to this. You're not gonna miss out on it, even if it's like a limited release. You're not gonna miss out on it if you're patient. You'll find it. It'll fill that hole like on your shelf. But I don't think that the scalpers in any way, shape, or form are going to affect. I agree with you 100% that I don't think it's going to affect the collectors. It's worth what you're going to pay for it. That is true.
Yep. Just to touch base on what you just said, Petey, I thought was interesting. You said, as much as you wish it would affect them, do we really want it to affect them, though? Because if it affects them, then our value on our collection will go down.
Right.
So do we really want that?
No.
You know what I mean? So it's just this circle of just chasing your tail, hoping you don't miss out.
Yeah, I don't. I said that like after no, I don't want it to. No, I don't. I just want to beat up the scalpers. That's it. No, I don't, no, I don't want it to affect the collectors in this game. I just wish scumbags would get theirs.
Yep. No, I hear you. So I mean, it sounds like that we all agree that it's there, it's here to stay, and we just have to do our best to try and navigate and work within those rules.
Yeah.
So.
And the biggest thing, I'll end with this, is that the biggest thing that you can do to sort of stick to scalpers is not buy into the fear, the FOMO, the fear of missing out, because that's really where the scalpers thrive. If they know that somebody out there is worried that they're not going to have it, then the scalpers win, and the scalpers will make their money one way or another. If you're patient, go ahead.
No, go. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. In my mind, if you're patient, if you enjoy the hunt, if you find it, or you can find it from an official source, or there's plenty of actual legitimate resale shops out there. I know that there will be people out there that'll buy stock, maybe buy a little extra stock for their resale shops, and they'll sell it either at market value or a small markup. Going to local places, going to local toy shops and whatnot. They have a very respectable community within themselves that understand the culture that is out there right now, and that are willing to try and prevent that by being a friend to the collector. So as long as you cannot buy into the I have to have it first, if I don't have it first, then there's no point. If you don't buy into that, then you'll be fine. As long as you're patient, scalpers don't have any power over you.
I feel like the wrestling community and Nick, I just met you today for the first time on a page where I joined because there were no admins, so I know I could post whatever the hell I want there. But I've got buyers from there to come over to my page, The Era, on Facebook, and I've made a lot of I've gotten a lot of good buyers. That's a new page that I learned about, but the community, I feel like the scalpers are getting eBay is where you go if you're scalping. I feel like if you're scalping on these pages, you're just gonna get beat up right now on these pages. If you post that figure that you bought for $20 for $100, you're gonna get beat up because there's someone else that found it that's willing to sell it for $20 plus shipping plus a money for a Red Bull or something. It's a good community. I love those people, the toy shops that will buy them and sell them for a reasonable value. I feel like the community is good. As much as I can't stand scalpers, and we obviously can't stand them, it might not be worth it to them soon. I feel like we might the communities might get rid of them because like we're not allowing them into the community. You know, you got to go on eBay for that shit. You got to sell it to people. Like, I don't know who's buying it. There are always going to be buyers for it. The scalpers will figure out who. The example I was going to make is that when I buy sports tickets, I live in New Jersey. I'm a Tampa Bay Bucks fan. I'll go to Florida. I'll book my flight. I won't buy a ticket to the game until game time, because I know at game time, it's going to be like the person, well, shit, I didn't sell it yet. And now all of a sudden I'm like with a really good seat in the stadium for like half price. Or if I bought it 15 minutes ago, it would have been double the price.
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania, same thing. Philly, like I went down to Philly for WrestleMania a couple of years ago. And like I had friends come from different country, different states, and we never even went because it was so cold that night. It was even cold for me, who lives in this area. But the price dropped so drastically from like whatever the time was when we were looking at them at 5 o'clock to whenever it started. Like you could have gone to WrestleMania for like $39 if you had waited 5 minutes until after it started. And so just be patient. Like the point is just be patient with this.
Beautiful.
Stuff. Sorry,
No, you're good. That seems to be the name of the game. Be patient. We'll wrap it up there. Eldon, did you have any social media you wanted to shout out for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a nice collector. I don't have anything to talk about.
I'm glad I met you too. I like you both.
Yeah, Peter, you want to shout out any of your social media?
The Era on Facebook. It's the Era Hasbro's WWF. It was so cool to do this. I was nervous. I don't like being on camera, but this is a lot of fun, man. I'd love to be part of something like this in the future.
Nice.
Thank you.
No, we'll have you guys all back on here at some point soon. Appreciate you guys for joining. If you guys like this content, please make sure to like and subscribe. See you guys next time.
Every year the world drop, hop, hop. Every year the world drop, hop, hop. Every year the world drop, hop, hop. Turn me up, turn me up. Noob Wrestling, we crush the ring. Hit so hard, make the whole crow sing. Fly off top, yeah, we bring that pain. No gang here, we don't play no game. Boom, 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 boom. Like, subscribe, hit that bell right now. We done a wave and we run this town. Thanks for watching, we'll see you again. No Bristle, need to tell a friend.